Hello there, everyone. So, as you all may have seen recently, YouTube has been on just an absolute rampage where channel after channel is being taken down for even the smallest perceived infractions. I mean, in some cases, they'll just straight up make up some of this stuff. And I could speak from experience. Filthy and I have received a TOS strike because we provided a link in the description of one of our recent videos, which also resulted in us not being able to upload or make community posts for the next week. And that's particularly insidious because YouTube doesn't even lay out an example of what a link, a website, or a subject matter you link to, which isn't acceptable, is. So essentially the link policy they have is entirely arbitrary. Another rather insidious thing which has come out of this is YouTube simply pulling down videos without even giving the original uploader notice as to why. Like, two videos about for instance, last year there were two videos I did about the defense distributed court case, which I uploaded. YouTube yoinked those, probably because they thought I wouldn't notice, and well, a lot of people have been reacting to this lately. Mr. Medicare's post on his YouTube page is probably my favorite, going over what's happened. I think he covered it probably better than anybody, which is unusual, because for the most part he's just a drama channel. But he did this in a post announcing he was no longer going to be uploading content to YouTube. And, well, you can go ahead and read his own post verbatim, because there's really not a whole lot to read, and there's no need to even paraphrase it. But basically, I just wanted to point out in some short video that this is a realization of exactly what I said was going to happen around a month ago when YouTube initially announced their plan to openly start cracking down on anyone who wasn't quote-unquote a sponsored creator, along with their other plans, their increasingly vague and expansive standards for what constitutes a ban, or a video getting taken down, or a community guideline strike, etc. That's not even mentioning how channels are being manually throttled in YouTube's algorithms to be prevented from appearing in recommended video feeds or search results like this one. And I've received personally multiple messages from people telling me that they've been unsubscribed from my channel by YouTube. And the reasons laid out here by Medicare is near point for point exactly my argument for why I thought initially they were bluffing and just trying to work within the state's master narrative promoted by all state media right now of trying to normalize the idea of having the FCC directly control all content produced online and criminalize people for trying to compete with Silicon Valley tech companies and for posting content on proprietary platforms, which goes against the state's interests. Because right now, even as is, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and all these other Silicon Valley tech firms have been bleeding profit and users for years now due to censorship, algorithmic suppression of certain content and users, giving information to the government, and financial suppression among various other points of contention. The thing with a social media business model is that the government using subsidies, regulatory capture, or financial manipulation to incentivize deplatforming, among with other ways in which the state manipulates these sites' terms of service directly, can only really get them so far, because the purpose of having these firms be corporatized with all of the state-secured legal privileges in the first place is to assist the state in trying to secure master narratives, and the internet presently threatens their ability to do so, similar to how the state had previously before with television and radio. Well, the problem here created by this is that the state can't manufacture a desire for people to use the platforms they've propped up out of nothing, or a better way to put that would be that the demand for online outlets is dependent on factors which lie entirely outside of the state's control, regardless of the internal economic model or structural framework the internet operates around. The state and/or the companies which the state props up can do small things which may attract some superficial positive attention from the controlled media outlets or change their layout to be visually more appealing and convenient to navigate, which in the short term may be able to yield some small gains. Which, by the way, they haven't even been able to do that because YouTube's layout is fucking god-awful, and people are slowly beginning to figure out that, like big tech, mainstream media outlets all operate around a state-influenced set of hegemonic master narratives which influence their conduct. But anyway, the only thing which separates the Twitters of the world from MySpace is the ability for users on these platforms to communicate and engage in ways which they deem to be meaningful and worth going out of their way in investing time to do so. And YouTube in the late 2000s to early 2010s, to a large extent, was like this. Not in the sense that it was ever non-proprietary or truly decentralized, because those who were around at the time will remember Viacom and the Warner Music Group copyright striking every other video on the platform. But in a sense that everybody who had a personality could make content, and their content could not only bring them tens of thousands of views if they used the right keywords, but also make lots of money from doing so. Nowadays, the only way you can gain influence on YouTube is if you're a preferred creator, which means anyone who has certain ideological persuasions the state and YouTube perceive to be beneficial to promote. So, content creators like ContraPoints or PragerU, this is mainly based on how heavily they place emphasis on the state's master narratives and enforce those. Clickbait content creators, which are just channels designed to exploit the algorithms to gain as many views as possible. Stuff like those Ask Reddit compilation videos. Or the cable corporations the state also sponsors who serve a similar purpose to the first category of creators mentioned. Outside of that, though, the only content creators with any real clout up until this point have just been holdovers from the late 2000s and early 2010s, who gained their notoriety and most of their viewers back when it was actually possible to become an influential content creator from simply making videos talking about content which people liked and were interested in, and having a personality which allowed you to stand out and resonate with an audience. Which leads me to the two main points I wanted to establish with this video. I believe that this particular recent round of censorship is the beginning of the end for YouTube. It's been clearly declining for a while, but based on how many people have been banned for the reasons they were banned and what that's doing to the mentality of the content creators who are left, this platform is not going to be able to survive. With how easy it is to be banned and how arbitrary yet strictly the ban hammer will be exercised, along with the fact that no one can even find content that they enjoy anymore, practically because of YouTube's algorithms, I would argue that this is the point where we're going to start seeing a lot more dead channels than active ones, and it wouldn't surprise me even a little bit if there was a net loss of users on YouTube in 2019 because of this. This is because most people who are on YouTube right now rightfully feel exactly like Medicare does. They have no confidence in the idea that what they're uploading will even be able to be viewed by their audience. They have no idea whether or not anything they say at any time will result in a ban from the platform. And they damn sure aren't going to be able to gain financially from this, so investing the time in actually creating content will have a greater opportunity cost disparity. And I think the idea behind this is that the state here really wants to try and manufacture support for certain narratives. As noted earlier, the nationalist boomer political channels and the breadtube channels are being openly promoted in YouTube's algorithms, so clearly there's an attempt to construct a subversive culture to the one which existed on YouTube with ideas that otherwise couldn't compete. As of right now, according to various consumer polls, the US government is the least trustworthy organization in the entire country, and similar sentiments can be found all over Europe. The fact is, more people are becoming disillusioned and are recognizing the existence of the ideological master narratives being pushed by the state. The idea that subtly implied through information by these media sources, there's the idea that, oh, the state is good for you. The state is, functioning in your interests. But, I mean, we're seeing time and again, and I think other people are as well, this isn't the case, nor can it possibly be the case. That's not to say that all of them are becoming completely state-skeptical anarchists, though certainly there are more of them because anarchism happens to operate within an alternative anti-political, socio-political framework. So you're not going to win people over by removing every counter-narrative from the platform and trying to shove propaganda, which conforms to the master narrative being pushed by the state, down people's throats. You're just going to turn people away from the platform. So with this, I would say that YouTube, along with the death of every other social media outlet, was self-inflicted. And because of this internal contradiction with how social media works comparatively to cable news, radio, or even printed publications, in how ideas are spread on these mainstream outlets, I think that there's seriously a good case to be made for the days of the state having the ability to push master narratives through sources of information which propagandize the population being entirely over. Adding to this is the notable recognition which seems to be occurring in the eyes of the general public that proprietary software models are undesirable and create a lot of problems along with limitations which could easily be solved through distributed networking, and the consequent growing demand for decentralization in digital applications shows this, like what I and other people are doing with FNet, which, by the way, we have some updates on that, which will be coming out in the next episode of the Cool Capitalist Kids podcast. But this leads me to my final point, which is that while a lot of people are going to be looking for alternatives to YouTube because YouTube's no longer a viable platform for them to create content on and to view what they like to watch on, there are going to be a lot of competitors emerging and a lot of competing models emerging. And here would be an example of what I'm talking about as of right now, which is that there are a lot of these which are very clearly honeypots to gather information that are masquerading as decentralized or distributed alternatives. Now, a good way to weed these out, and this is sort of why I wanted to go into this, is to show you all how to avoid these, is first of all, there's a privacy policy. Now, right off the bat, that should be a red flag, because if it was a truly distributed platform, they wouldn't be able to collect information on you, and the fact that there's a privacy policy means that that's what they're doing on here. But yeah, it's closed. This application's entirely closed source, which means you have no way of actually even verifying whether or not it is a decentralized application. And yeah, this is hardly the only one that's like this. I called out Dissenter a couple of months ago for being very similar to this, and you'll also notice a lot of these if you're still on Twitter, or as I like to refer to it, Neo-Tumblr. you'll get a lot of advertisements for proprietary cryptocurrency trading applications such as eToro, and you'll recognize these pretty easily. There's a bunch of Ripple shills in the comments, and they're the fact they're even able to be promoted publicly suggests that Twitter views it to be in their interests and not against their interests to publish it. So, yeah, while you're looking for alternatives, that's certainly what I would recommend. Don't get me wrong. I would say right now, a lot of people are going to be looking for alternatives, and looking for competition is great. But, yeah, watch out for a lot of these proprietary applications which advertise themselves as free speech alternatives, because that is a surefire way to tell that they are collecting your data. In fact, just if they call themselves a free speech alternative, that alone is a good sign that they are a honeypot, because that means that their messaging and the people that they're targeting are specifically the political people who are going to be leaving YouTube, the political audience who are looking for an alternative to view political content. Anyways, before I go, I just wanted to announce that if you're a patron of mine, there is now a patron tier within the Discord server, and if you're in my Discord server and a patron of mine, which by the way I'll leave a link to my Discord server in the description of this video, you now have the ability, if you donate $2 a month or more through my Patreon, to ask questions in a specific channel within this Discord that only patrons have access to. And a few of these questions will be answered from this point onwards at the end of every video. Being a patron gives you the chance to have your question answered. Anyway, so thank you all for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. Maybe even share the video, and I will see you all next time.